I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Martyn Element. Martyn is a marketing and corporate consultant who focuses on sourcing and pursuing new business ventures in Vancouver. Welcome to the show, Martyn.
Welcome to the show, Jim, and the listeners, and advisor I am with a lot of these deals of structure and timing, and I love that side of the business and advising them how they can increase the size of the business and helping them market their business. It's exciting. It's exciting to be in the business, and once again, thanks to Frank Giustra with his licks. You know, he definitely wouldn't say single-handedly, but I'd have to say that he's been the main reason. I think there's been one of the main reasons, and the price of gold hasn't done us any harm either, of course, but Licks was the deal that went from 15 cents to 280, currently trading 176, doing some consolidation after digesting its last 10 million shares that were done at 30 cents. Frank is such a successful guy, and he's an organized guy, and we've talked a lot about the Licks deal, but I think he's brought so much money and excitement back into the marketplace, and it's caused so many of these lithium deals to be born. I think there's probably 4 or 5 a week that are being born at the moment. There was another one that I know the players pretty well. Keith Anderson is the head of FAR Resources, which has had a very interesting silver gold property down in, I think it's Futura down in Mexico. It's a good quality project, but had a lot of difficulty getting it going, as so many juniors in that space over the last year or two. But he really has been able to ignite that company this last week and the beginning of last week. And this last week is where he put in a nice lithium, quite a more mature property. I haven't looked at it that closely, in Manitoba, and that has been put into the company. And yes, after that was announced going into the company, huge amount of market interest. And, there's been a financing in the process of being done in the realm. I don't know what the dollars are, but I would guess it's going to be at least $500,000 into a company that was struggling. But now, because you've got the emphasis on the lithium, people are looking at the gold silver property. And it's just the way the business can work. And it's great because Keith's a hard-working fellow. He's been around a long time. Him and Shane Nyquist from Mackie, I think, played a major role in making all this happen. And it's good to see these deals getting going after they've been on the ropes or having all kinds of tight financial problems. We've also had an extremely exciting time, of course, with something that is near and dear to my heart, and it's certainly got the whole world's attention, is this soccer team that got it done, Leicester City. We've talked about it a little bit on the show because it is a business. It's a sport, absolutely, of course, but it's a business. But it's a sport and a business. Leicester, the owners, kept completely away from interfering with any of the decisions that were made, and they put an unbelievable team together. Sounds like a business deal, listeners. And they worked well together. They didn't stop chopping and changing out of the 22 teams in the Premier League in Great Britain. I think it was the one that, it was definitely the team that was least messed around with changing players all the time because they didn't have a lot of money. And the best quote I got on that whole story is that if you take Manchester United's monies that they spent on players the last 2 years, that money is equal to all the money that Leicester City has spent on all of their teams over the 132 years they've been in the business. So that's a team that has done unbelievably well, Leicester City, and that's been exciting to watch. And I've talked quite a bit about Formula One, and I thought at the end of last year, it was getting its numbers were dropping, and people were saying it's getting too predictable. And now you've got the world champion for the last 2 years is having tremendous problems with his car, Lewis. And because of that, it's really shaking things up a little bit in the Formula One, like I haven't seen it shaken up. But it needed to be. And you have to wonder whether the magician, Bernie Ecclestone, is that clever that he's actually been able to making all this happen. So Formula One seems to be really exciting, and I'm sure the viewership is reflecting that.
We'll have more with Martyn Element right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Martyn Element. Martyn, how important is it for people starting up new companies to keep their spirits up when we see the big boards in the stock markets coming down? Although I also note the TSX Venture Exchange has good days when others are having bad.
Well, I remember my old boss when I first got into business, Gus McPhail, many years ago, Continental Carlisle, and unfortunately, he was taken early with cancer, but he was the one that would always tell me and show me that when, unfortunately, what I call the real world, the real business world is having serious problems, that's when these juniors tend to excel, particularly in the resource section, in the gold and precious metals, as we're experiencing right now. So I think that, there's a day in the sun for all these different deals, and absolutely it's downheartening for some of these companies to watch what happens when you're seeing the big companies having their own problems. But it just takes a lot of guts, and you can't let that get you down. And it's easier said than done. And it's a long road sometimes. And the other things that happen so often in business that you'll see a deal that'll go from 15 cents to $1.50, and everybody's phoning up and saying, what a fantastic job you did, George, and how fantastic you've made the deal go, and now it looks like it's on its way even higher, and on and on and on and on. And George will say to me, yes, it looks fantastic. Yes, it looks like the stock has gone from 15 cents to, it has gone from 15 cents to $1.50 in the last 4 months. But nobody was around, and nobody was there, I've been working on this deal for 7 years, or I've been working on this deal for 5 years. So it looks like an overnight success so often in this business, but when you go back and you do your homework, you'll see that the individual or the individuals have been working on one specific deal for many, many, many years. So but at least they keep going, and they keep being able to finance them. So Jim, no, you can't be affected by you are affected whether you like it or not by the outside world, but you cannot start getting round-shouldered and start looking down at the ground, because if you do that, you ain't going to see that new shiny bus coming down the road, and you're going to miss those opportunities. And I think that it's so important that you don't do that. You keep going even in the worst of circumstances. Easier said than done. Easier said than done, Jim. You know what? I'm looking at this Donald Trump. And there's a nice young man out there, Scott Armstrong, and he has a newsletter called Energy and Gold. He's a very eloquent young man. He's early in the stages. He's a good friend of Tommy Humphries, so he's with a good guy there that knows what he's doing in that arena. And I just got something from him just the other day, and after I got it, I did sign up for his blog or his newsletters. And he is on one of the comments, I think, and what I've been thinking just recently quite a lot, is that what we're seeing going on in the United States with Donald Trump looking like, well, they're not looking, he is now officially the Republican candidate, and dare we think that there's always a potential, especially with the contrarian attitude that's going on and seems to be very healthy in the world today in many ways. He could become the next president of the United States. And I think the fact that he could become the next president of the United States that a lot of the smart money and a lot of the big money, a lot of people that are managing unbelievable amounts of money in any of our worlds, are hedging the bets. They're beginning to hedge the bets, and they're hedging their bets, yes, as Scott pointed out, I believe, in gold. And I think that's another reason, it's just another reason why gold in the last 2 weeks seemed to be sort of 10 days, it was meandering a little, starting to come off the boil, and then at the end of this last week it came back stronger than ever. I personally think, everybody equates it to many different things, the US dollar, and which they're quite correct, of course. But I think Scott has hit on something there with his saying that he thinks a lot of it is is based around what we're seeing going on across the border in the most powerful nation on earth, the United States of America.
I just saw a Bill Maher episode on HBO where he had a person who's very much in favor of the Republican Party. She predicted a year ago that Trump would be their candidate, and she was laughed at by the panel. And she said, "You don't understand America very well, do you?" And she thinks Democrats will support him because they just want to see a change. They want to see somebody different in there who's not part of the regular power structure.
Well, it's funny that, to change gears back again, not to confuse the audience here. I think there's all kinds of talking heads and soothsayers all over the world that are in the same boat with that lady's comments about Donald Trump. But he knows how to push the buttons, and he's playing, obviously, on the discontent. And the more and more and more I think you see the main media people condemn him or come up with all kinds of scenarios to try and belittle him or try and put all kinds of scenarios in his way, it not only does it not weaken him, I think it strengthens him, because the average person says, we can see what you're doing, we're fed up of it, we're fed up of being manipulated by the main media, and even though we don't know whether Donald's good, bad, or indifferent, we're tired of, you're right, change. Now, I watched a TV program where they had 3 or 4 of the biggest predictors of the world of soccer. And it was so funny because they were all very big people in their world in Great Britain, and there was the same scenario. Leicester City was laughed at, absolutely laughed at the beginning of the season, completely made a mockery of. There was a bigger chance of finding, you could get better odds on Leicester City winning the Premier League than on finding Elvis Presley alive or Christmas Day being the hottest day in the year in Great Britain. So, strange things happen in this world, and nothing is as strange as folk, as they say in England. And it's just, it's evolution, it's what we're seeing, it's why we're all here on this world, and nothing surprises us, I'm telling you. So, you gotta keep your eyes and wits about you. And anything I've talked about today, of course, once again, disclaimers, I'm an observer. This is what I call my show. I think it's really a blog. It's a talking blog is what it is. And it's what I've been doing this last week. I've been very, very active this last week with Vitality products. We've talked about it before. The vitamin pill company, been around since 46. And they're gearing up, of course, for a big, big show here in Vancouver. I think it's next weekend. And they're in the process of launching a new product. But, it's been an exciting week because I don't look at it. It happens to be listed as a stock. They still haven't got the website changed over to reflect that. Unfortunately, they're so busy with their business, but they will. But it's just, it's happening because it's quality product, and I think it's exciting to meet people that are making a difference in this world and looking to do things differently with products that they believe in and making things happen. So I'm going to try and get together with the fellow that I mentioned before from Hemco in the next couple of weeks as well, and sit down with him and go over what he's doing with his company so I can talk about it on air. But it's exciting time. We've got a resource market going by the looks of things. John McCoach, who we all love and like, and I really admire him. I think he's done a fabulous job under the most difficult of circumstances, has announced he's leaving the business, which, enough is enough. I'm sure this last couple of years has taken its toll on him, so they'll be looking for somebody else to be playing his role. But And I wish John, it's going to be quite a long time before he goes. He's not going to the end of this year, so he's giving lots of notice. But on air, I'd like to say, John, I think it's great, and I think you've done, under the most difficult of circumstances. He knows I'm a believer in John, so I think that we'll be interesting to see who they come up with to replace him, you know.
Martin, are you going to be the new president of the TSX Venture Exchange?
You know, you're laughing and I'm laughing with you, Jim. I'm telling you right now, Jim, and I say it to you listeners, if I was 20 years younger, I would absolutely push 15 years younger, I think I'd push my way to the front of that bus and try and see if I could get involved, because I think I can think of nothing, I can think of not more of a critical time to be involved in that role. I think my age would go against me, but I think that it would be exciting, because they've had all these other exchanges, and yes, some of them are getting a little bit of volume here or there, and you've had all these other ideas and trading bases, but people come back to quality. And the TSXE is still very much, Toronto Stock Exchange is one of the highest quality and looked at around the world at being one of the best places to trade in business, and eventually it comes back again, it does a full circle. And I think it would be we're both laughing at each other here, but I think that would be that would be a very, very exciting scenario. But no, that's not going to happen, Jim. But interesting thought.
Worldwide surveys find people like to do business with Canada and in Canada because it's viewed as one of the least corrupt nations on earth. Is that a factor for the success of Canadian markets?
Well, I think after the Brexit debacle, our mining laws and our security laws referring to public companies and the way that the business is governed, I think has done nothing. Some of it's been very laborious and encompassing, but at the same time, people know if they read a prospectus or they read a report that's put out by the Toronto Stock Exchange on a company, that yes, Jim, that they know it's been really vetted and worked overtime, and some people criticize us too much, but yes, it has Toronto and Canadians, and I always think Canadians are an interesting race, listeners. Now we've got a lot of American listeners, I know, but they always say that Canadians are a mix because they've got the polite sort of English way about doing things, or the British way about conducting themselves, but they've also got that aggressive, meaningful manner that Americans are known for, and in a very positive sense, by the way, listeners. But with a Canadian, you've got a mix of both. You've got you've got a lot of that politeness and a lot of that. Not that Americans aren't polite, but you've got a lot of. It's just a very interesting, potent mix, and of course. The other thing, don't forget, Jim, on that point, the up-and-coming most powerful nation on earth at the moment is China, and the Chinese just love doing business with Canadians, more than anybody else on earth, I think. And that's because they don't like doing business with Americans for whatever reason, but they're so comfortable with Canadians. And who's to know, in the next decade or the years to come, you're going to have India coming on as a huge nation, and I wouldn't be surprised if they like to do a huge amount of business with Canadians as well. So, no, Canada does a fabulous, absolutely unbelievably good job of selling itself to business and people around the world, and it's a good place. It's a good place to be, and it's a good place to do business. I've got something I want to talk about. I can't. But next week, I've got something really interesting, I think, and I love the part of the world that they're doing it in, but I'm not even going to be dropping hints or anything. It's a interesting project. I phoned one of the main principals this morning, and the news release I thought was out, on Friday afternoon. I'm glad I did call, because no, it's not out yet. It's not out until before the market on Monday morning, but I'm looking forward to talk about that in a couple of weeks' time, Jim, and I'm also looking to travel a little bit, I think, and we can talk about that more later. So that's it, Jim, on a beautiful summer's day here in Vancouver, listeners. And what date is it today, Jim?
Mama's Day for many people, or it will be on Sunday.
And it's what day is the 8th or the 9th or something?
It's on the 8th.
8th of May, listeners. I'm sitting here in Vancouver, Canada. It's about going into the mid-20s here, if you're away from the water. and it's just like a beautiful early summer's day. And we are blessed, and I hope you're blessed where you're listening to this from. And my heart and my thoughts go out to those people in that Fort McMurray. I've been watching that, and I'm so happy. I think, as far as I heard just a few hours ago, that the big thing is that nobody has actually died in that debacle. But boy, there's been some awful, terrible times, and it just shows you Mother Nature. She can be very, very vicious when she gets going, and she certainly has been tough on those poor people, and my heart goes out to them. And I'm sure my church is going to be having some sort of a donation, and I'm going to be putting some small money in to try and, on my own, doing in the next 24 hours on that. But enough of that, Jim. Get out and enjoy the day, listeners.
And don't forget, any donation to the Canadian Red Cross to help out people in Fort Mac will be matched by the federal government.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Thanks a lot, Martyn.
Okay, thank you, listeners all over the world. I look forward to having an exciting show week after next, and we've certainly got an exciting market. And let's hope that it keeps going and replenishes, and let's get everybody back going again. I'm looking to help a summer student this year, and I just talked to him about an hour ago, and I said to him, if you'd asked me 2 months ago to help you try and find a job over the summer in the finance industry, he's a student at U of Victoria, University of Victoria. I said, I'd have to tell you, I'd see you and I'd try and I'd help, but I said, your odds would be stacked against you. But you're very lucky. I said, the last 8 weeks, I said, this market is really coming alive. So I said, Lady Luck is shining on you. So he's just a young guy, and he's in his second year finance, but he's an example of what's going on out there. So there's a lot of scrambling going on, and let's hope we don't hit hard onto the summer doldrums in July and August. And in my lifetime, I have lived through a gold market that ran in July and August, and that was an amazing experience, trying to enjoy a little bit of the summer, but also on your phone all the day because the stocks were running. Let's hope we have those problems again, Jim.
My guest has been Vancouver marketing and corporate consultant Martyn Element. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. You can forward questions or comments for the show to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.